Alrighty, let's play some Civilization 5. This is Ethelred, worst Civ player on YouTube, most badass Civ 5 historian on YouTube. I'm in a class by myself, and that's maybe not a good thing. So, there's a couple of things I want to mention at the beginning of this game, things I forgot to mention in the analysis of World War I, which is that in the years leading up to World War I, 1900 to 1914, all of the European elite were certain. Okay, not all of them, but many were certain. Many were positive. It was very in vogue to be smart and say, look now, come on, I know there's a lot of people who are concerned about war, but that's all a thing of the past because the modern world is far too interconnected. We have way too much trade with Germany to ever go to war with them again. I'm not messing with you. That's what was said. They wrote whole books about it. Definitely a cautionary tale for us today. Think, oh, we're so modern. Our modern world, way past war. We're way too interconnected today. All right, and the other thing is, one of the primary lessons that was learned by World War I was, did you notice how events got out of control of the Kaiser? When he issued the command to start the Schlieffen Plan, he couldn't stop it. He turned to his generals within the hour and said, I'm not so sure about this, man. I think this might be a bad idea. And the generals said, once you've given the order, it can't be stopped. And then he sent a runner to try to stop it, and he couldn't. And at that point, the head of state was no longer in control of his state. He had let the military and events overtake him. And that was something that that central lesson was encapsulated in a history book called The Guns of August, which was read by JFK. And it was on his mind in the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was obsessed with that thought in the Cuban Missile Crisis. And he kept a very tight control over his Joint Chiefs of Staff to make sure that events did not get out of his control, that the military did not cause things to happen that he didn't want to happen. All right, so it's 1926. Oh yeah. I've got a couple of things to do with my scientists. I'm probably not going to spend them on combined arms, but on computers and robotics. I'll probably pop them on those two. Yep. Alright, so what else do we have to talk about? Cutting down forests for Saruman. 1924, Trotsky was denounced by Stalin's friends in the Troika. The Troika is the top seven commies I mentioned the other day. And the reason why was because Stalin wanted all the power for himself. But the excuse Stalin gave was because Trotsky had called and always was calling for perpetual revolution. That's the way that the proletariat stays in power, rather than an entrenched elite. And Stalin, naturally, was of the mind that, what do you mean? We've got a socialist state now. I'm in charge of it. Naturally, there's not going to be any more revolutions. Are you crazy? So he got exiled. The Troika began to unravel. 1925. 1926. Some of the Troika, now fearing Stalin, denounced him at the 14th Party Conference. They got exiled as well. And in 27, more Troika members were exiled because they formed an opposition party to Stalin. So in 4 turns, we are going to... we're going to what? We're going to have a vote for World Congress. And we're going to send hammers to Moscow. Ain't that a dandy? So we have cleared forests, and our spaceship part is coming along dandy. I'll need to see how many, if any, city-states I can purchase into my pocket. It's not super important to me that I become world leader. In fact, it's not. But I'll try. Oh, I'll give it a little bit of an effort. Sure. Why not? I mean, really all I'm doing right now is clicking next turn and talking about history. What do we got next? 1928. The last of the Troika capitulates to Stalin, and Stalin now rules uncontested. So Stalin has assumed his final form. Wow, he's rich. Brazil is really rich. Much richness. This is how we build spaceships. Okay, so you were going to Poltavka. Poltavka is working on a spaceship part. We'll just keep it running. Oh yeah, my general's back. Just sleep there forever. You'll never be used again. I should make my errands and see if anybody's willing to sell me any luxuries. Because, not that I need it right now, but hey, it'd be nice to stay in the Hey, maybe I'll get another... No, I won't get another golden age. Not while this game lasts. I am trying to end it by 1950. I actually think I can't do that. I can probably do it by like 1960 though. I'm actually at this point shooting for 1955. I've got to race I've got to race Brazil because they're coming a long way towards their culture win. Lost copper from Riga, losing grasp on Hong Kong. Okay, so Hong Kong. Let's talk about that. Where are you, Hong Kong? Oh. I'm going to lose you as an ally. I got it. What else can I do for allies here? There's a cheap one. Actually, I won't do any more because I know the AI likes to bombard city-states right in the turn before... Aha! Before votes. Next, chop down a forest.
동지여, 우리는
I'm selling a lot of silk. What year is it? 1929? Okay, first 5-year plan. In this plan, which ran from 1928 to 1932, Russia, well, the USSR, doubled its iron and coal output. Workers at this time, if they were going to be fired, you could get fired if you missed one day without an excuse. And if you weren't working, you didn't have the right to get food. You also didn't have the right to live in an apartment. So that means that if you get fired, you lose your food and your shelter. And the worst thing is that when the employer fired you, they could blacklist you from employment, which means that you would never get to eat or live in shelter again. Those people died of starvation. Great. Really nice revolution there for the people. Really worked out great. Little sarcasm on my part. Alright. Kizzle my dizzle wants a trade route. Can I may try to influence them. This is the turn. And we got Ormus, Antwerp. I think it's going to be Valletta. They need... Oh my goodness, 93 influence. Never mind that. It's 109 though. Gee, many Christmas. Alright, it is going to be Kizzle. We'll do 1,000 to them. Boom. Allied with Kizzle. That's nice. Next. And I think that really I probably can't become allies with anybody else this turn. What? Oh, I could do Antwerp. Okay. And Ormus? No. No, I'm not going to become allies with anybody else this turn. So, I'll just hold on to my gold. And we will let this roll into an election. 1930. Also during the first 5-year plan, Stalin was of the opinion that if he was going to become a world superpower, his workforce needed to be educated. And so he sent his working class to school. The number of students at this time increased by 50%. Literacy increased dramatically. I'm so sorry that you're upset about Kizil. Oh good, we've got another tech and we can pop right through another one with my scientist. See, there's Pedro completing the Opera House. That means they have hastened their victory by culture. So this is a race. I believe this is a race, and I don't have very many turns. It's kind of a close race. But I believe it's a race that I'm going to win. Alright, computers and robotics. 1 turn for robotics. World leader, we're going to go with myself. We're not going to get it. But hey, we tried. And that's an investment in the next vote in 30 turns will be against. Well, I don't know. We'll find out. But anyway, it'll be nice to control the agenda. And we have our spaceship part. 1931.
Ireis considerar esta oferta?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, accept your embassy, sure. So women benefited a lot, I guess, from the USSR in that it didn't see gender. So whatever a man could or would do, a woman could or would do too, which meant that she was living the same hell as the men. I guess that's progress. What else? 1932. We'll get there in a second. What do we got? Anything going on in Brazil has denounced Egypt. And we are still at 22 happiness. Kiev wants a road. It's never going to get it. I've tried doing that in other playthroughs. I didn't care for it. I didn't really think it worked out to my benefit.
1.
Woohoo, robotics. That means that I'm going to buy a spaceship factory. No world leader chip. What? Oh. Yeah. Got it. That wasn't for host. That was for world leader. Got it. And my proposal is going to be that we get rid of this stinking arts funding. Yeah. Screw that. What else we got going on? Let's just re-automate our workers, because... Is there any... What are we're going to get... Oh, we are going to be building spaceship parts again here soon, so... Actually, maybe we'll send this guy up here and cut down some forests. And we got a cockpit. Should we build this? Let's just sleep the cockpit out here on the field for a little while. Yeah, Yeah, nice, good-looking spaceship part there. That looks pretty cool. I like that. We'll drive them all into the capital here in a little while. I'm just leaving it parked in case there's some kind of miracle of bad fortune and somebody takes my capital. That way I can relocate the space parts. Really? There was somebody who was happy with my proposal. Now that surprises me a little bit. Monty, hey man, you got some pearls that we can trade? I forgot myself. 1932. Religion was banned in the USSR. They shut down most all of the monasteries and churches, and the clergy were exiled, thrown into the gulags, or shot to death. Most of them were shot to death. So, did we just get we got another scientist. That's insanely awesome. We're gonna pop that bad boy. So nice. Very, very great. Wow. Talk about barbarians. Why are there those barbarians? They must have been around since the beginning of the game. Okay, a bunch of things I'm not really caring about here. And we'll just roll on to the next turn. 1933. France, Germany, the UK, Japan, and the United States all recognize the USSR as a country. They disliked, though, the fact that Russia was officially calling for revolution in the entire world. Basically, you're going to make yourself a pariah state by saying, yeah, all you other countries in the world, all you governments everywhere, you're all illegitimate. And that's what they were doing. They said that the working party needed to rise up and overthrow all of their governments and join solidarity with Russia. So France especially despised the USSR because they saw the USSR as a threat to the small Eastern European countries, which are relatively recently joined the world stage. And France had pledged to protect all of them. So they saw the USSR as a threat, and they really disliked the USSR. Dmitry Mendeleev. You're a great scientist. We're going to pop you.
Yeah.
Nanotech. Nice. Super nice. And we're going to go to particle physics for our last spaceship part. This, I do foresee this turning into a win. And I think the win will come, maybe in the next episode. That's my hope. I have history planned out as far as 1950. I haven't gone beyond that. I've been toying with the ideas going as far as Gorbachev. I would kind of like to do that, to see this through to the end of the Soviet Union, but I don't think the game's going to run that long. What year is it? 1934. So if France hated the USSR, that meant that the USSR enjoyed decent relations with Germany. It's the whole enemy of my enemy is my friend thing. 1934, his second 5-year plan got started. Iron and coal output again doubled. That is a fantastic increase in iron and coal output in those years. And something else I want to mention about these two 5-year plans, as inhuman as they were, and I'm not excusing them because they were inhuman, but I will note that the generation that grew up in these two 5-year plans were the first near university level literate generation in Russia ever. So, I guess you broke 1,000 eggs to make one omelet. Killed a Celtic spy. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Ivory to Sejong has ended first. To Pedro have ended. And we were getting gold from Sejong. We were getting gold from... So we basically were not selling things anymore. I guess we made a bunch of deals on one turn. And we lost silk from Kiev. I think I could officially care less. So, whatever, a bunch of blah blah blah. Let's just go chop down forests. And finish these boosters. That almost makes me think I should pull back my land ship. We are tree chopping fools. 1935. So workers by now are pulling 16 to 18 hour days, and if they fail to meet their quotas, they would be trialed for treason. So I heard a documentary on what it was like at the beginning of Stalin's reign, and one of the workers who had survived Stalin's reign of terror said that you would work like, 7, 8, 7, 9 hour shift. And you had to produce a just ridiculous amount of coal. So you're down in a coal shaft, okay? I mean, we're talking about digging out iron and coal. You're working in the mines. And you had this quota of like 2 tons of coal to produce. And if you didn't meet your quota, then you would be held on for another shift. That's probably what they mean here by 16 to 18 hour days. That's people working 2 shifts. And you would have then another quota of like 2 tons for your next shift. So if you didn't complete that quota, then you would be kept for a 3rd shift. By now you're working 24, 25 hours without a break, and you have another 2-ton quota. And then, yeah, you could just, if you collapsed, you could get tried for treason because you're apparently just choosing not to work if you can't produce 2 tons of coal per shift. Or I forget what the exact tonnage was. It was, I think it was in the tons though. So you're talking about a lot of coal getting produced. Barbarian encampment discovered. Where? Oh, I can adopt a policy? How super great. Oh, great. I know exactly which one. The New Deal. Because I still have enough happiness to maintain my thingamajigs. And that was about 100 science. Nice. Caravan. Was this sending hammers by chance? I'm hoping it was. Yep, good. 1936. Stalin started the Great Purge, and he had everyone who had ever opposed him or was seen to be in the company of those who opposed him from the Bolsheviks. So he started out with those who opposed him in the Bolshevik days, and then it got expanded to cover everybody who was associated with the Bolsheviks back in, I mean, at any level of the party. So even the lower level party folks now, you know, the mail carriers and stuff like that are getting purged. And then by 1938, well, by 1937, he expanded it to include soldiers. And by 1938, he just expanded it out to everyone. So he would go through these lists. He did the lists himself. We'd have the list submitted to him. Each district would have to submit a list of like 3,500 names to be purged. And he would go through the list himself. He did not delegate the work. And he would have a red pen, and sometimes he would add a name, sometimes he would scratch off a name. And he had just a couple of people who he used for all of the executions, and they worked overtime. The rest of the people were sent to the gulags. In these purges, Stalin directly ordered the execution of 600,000 to 1.2 million people. And a horrible famine was sweeping Ukraine because they were basically using Ukraine as a bread basket, shipping all that bread to feed their industrialization of Moscow. Now, I heard a heartbreaking story out of an elderly old woman who was a child in Ukraine at the time that this was going on, and she said that she remembered quite clearly she was a young girl along with her sister. They were old enough to remember, so maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And their little brother, who was closer to the 1, 2, 3 age, was asleep in a basket on the stove. So they had wood burning stove, right? Or coal burning. There's probably wood burning. And the child was near death from starvation and was all skin and bones. The boy was all skin and bones curled up in this basket. And the mother had a neighbor over, and the neighbor brought some food for the family. And the mother broke the food in half and handed one to the girl who survived and was telling the story, and to the girl's sister. The little boy roused himself from his sleep, crawled out of the basket, crawled off the stove, went over to the mother, and raised his hands for food. She couldn't give him any. She told him not now. She had none for him. He goes back, climbs onto the stove, crawls back into his basket, goes back to sleep. And the neighbor asked, why didn't you feed him anything? And she said, because, look, he is going to die anyway of starvation. I need to try to save my 2 girls. The next morning, the boy was dead. And the guy comes door to door because the famine during this transition to communism, the famine that was hitting especially Ukraine during these 5-year plans under Stalin, was so severe that they would have people go door to door to pick up the dead. And this guy comes and he picks up the baby and throws the baby in the cart. And by now the mother's not moving. And so the guy picks up the mother and throws her on the cart. And the woman telling the story said, "No, don't take Mom. She's not dead yet." And the guy said, "What? You stupid girl. Look, she's barely alive. She can barely breathe. You want me to come back tomorrow?" And he left with her. So that's how bad the famine was under Stalin. I've actually, in listening to histories of this particular time frame, heard a lot of heartbreaking things. Some of which I just can't take. I just got to turn this stuff off. 1938. All right, so Stalin comes out of the Great Purge with unrivaled power. And he just murdered 1 million people for political reasons. So nobody's going to question him anymore. In 1939, Nazi Germany entered Czechoslovakia, a state that the USSR had pledged to protect, but the USSR did not protect Czechoslovakia, and instead signed a non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany. I understand that this was basically an attempt to buy time, that Stalin and Russia, neither one had any illusions about Nazi Germany. They had an ideological difference with them on the basis that Russia was order, and I'm simplifying this in the game terms, but seriously, Russia was communist and they had a serious power with a fascist regime on their borders. So they were going to end up going to war with Germany, but they bought themselves some time to run another 5-year plan and try to get the tanks churned out by signing a non-aggression pact with Germany. 1939, big year. Let me turn my attention to the game for a second here. Just making sure I got everything I need to get done. There's no gardens here. There's you finished the stock exchange. I think you're gonna build science. Yep. 1774 science per turn. Not shabby. I've done better, but it's not shabby. So many barbs. Okay, 1939. Nazi Germany. Oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. So, along with the non-aggression pact in 1939, Germany and Russia, the USSR, agreed that they were going to split up Poland between them. And the USSR would get the east half, and Germany would get the west half. Also in this year, Russia moved the Red Army into Finland, which is right here, and tried to take over Finland. They fought what's called the Winter War. They outnumbered the Finnish by like 2 or 3 times, but their army just couldn't barely figure out which end of the rifle to point at the Finnish, and they lost staggering numbers of people, and it was a huge embarrassment. And Stalin learned that maybe I shouldn't have purged all those people out of the military. It seems that the officers that I killed were important. What else happened in 1939? Okay, that's it. 1940. Police at this time in Russia were operating as fast as they possibly could. They were arresting anyone that was accused of being counter-revolutionary. 600,000 were sentenced to death, and 2.5 million were sent to labor camps. 700,000 were exiled. The Red Army illegally occupied Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, and in Soviet style, anyone there who resisted was sent to the gulags. 1941. Now Nazi Germany gets the backstabber penalty. They attacked the USSR. They blitzed fast and had tons of success. They took Moscow by the end of the year. That's the second time I remember Moscow being taken by enemy forces. I guess that Russia sees Moscow as a nice to have, but not really, really important. I should note that losing grasp on Hong Kong. Germany, when it sent its, in first place it divided its military in two because it was going to fight in the East Theater and in the West Theater. Of the units, organized into armies, of the armies that he sent east into Russia, he broke those into two groups. You had a group which went north to Novgorod, and you had another group of units which came down here right about there is where Stalingrad is in real life. All right, I'll save this in just a second. So yeah, the southern group came to the south to Stalingrad. Now, while the north enjoyed success hitting Moscow and taking Leningrad and attempting to take some oil fields, which the Soviets torched, the southern group came to Stalingrad and set up. We're going to see here shortly as one army in particular, the 6th Army, makes its way through Poland on its way to its target, Stalingrad. We'll follow the 6th Army along because it becomes really important to the outcome of the entire war, as a matter of fact. Now, what forest can I chop this forest and keep the tile improvement? And we will just conclude this episode right here. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'll be right back in a few seconds with the next one because I think I've got enough material to go through to the end of the game. And I've got enough time tonight to go through, I think, to the end of the game. Please subscribe. Click the like button. It's right below the video. It's massively important. Have a good day.